Gwen, how'd you find out about us?
So I'm a really novice. So don't even
Ah!
really novice, and and I am in the army, so I am military. Um, and you know, the type A people, when people say, hey, let's ride, and that competitive. And so when COVID hit, and I was in Pennsylvania last year, but we came here to Fort Hood in June, someone said, hey, let's cycle. And I brought out my old Specialized that I had in 2013, dusted off.
That worked.
And started using writing. And then someone said, let's do a metric and and so in 2020, I said I was gonna make a century. It was a long 8 hours,
Hey!
but I did it in December. And then I think when I posted on a group, the Austin cycling said, hey, you wanna join? And I said, sure. But haven't cycled in this except for this past weekend in honor of Women's History or Women's International. They said cycle, you know, for the weekend, and I just did 18 miles only. My mom passed from COVID, so January and February. Yeah, so I had been on an emergency leave and came back last week from California. So I haven't ridden, and so I was interested in doing with the group here in Austin, but just got orders to go to Korea, so I'll be in Korea.
Shit. Boy, we're sorry for
Well,
you
you can start a Major Taylor chapter in Korea if you want.
I was thinking, I'm brand new, but I told the Austin group, I said, hey, I'll join the Austin. I don't know how much I can, but I was interested in starting one. I'm hoping to continuing in Korea, but if we can start one in Korea.
That's great. That's great.
That's
That's
great.
great.
So I was just
that's really cool.
They reposted this in their Facebook, and I just assumed there'd be a lot of people, and I was just learning. So
okay, very good.
okay, thank you.
Well,
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Yeah, it's good to hear the history there. It's good. You've got a lot going on, you know.
Yes.
And the fact that you're on, you get a chance to learn a little bit about the majors who have been around for a bit. They'll tell you all about the history.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, well, let's go ahead. It's about 7:08 on my clock, so let's go ahead and get started. And hopefully, I don't think George has joined us yet, guys, but hopefully he'll join us here soon. George has got, from what I understand.
Yeah, I could jump off real quick and send him a text.
No,
Yeah.
George knows. Yeah.
He might be working.
That's true as well.
Well, I'll watch because there's like.
No, he said he was on.
Okay.
He said he was going to call in.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep an eye out. But let me go ahead and introduce. I'm Lisa Darris. I've got my tosser jersey on today because that's how I learned about the Major Taylors. The Major Taylor group in Central Ohio has a very rich legacy that I am still learning about. In fact, today, Jed and I had a quick conversation, and I had no idea of how rich of a history you all have. So this is going to be a real special treat for people. We are going to record this, so it is recording right now so that we can play it for other people, and it'll be linked to the Major Taylor Facebook page as well as Outdoor Pursuits. Like I said, I've been the tosser director since 2017, and I also do a lot of other activities for Outdoor Pursuits. Right now, most of you are on mute. Sometimes if a lot of people are not on mute, we start getting feedback. So take a look at, there should be a little red microphone that has a cross through it. That means you are on mute. If you a little later in the session, we'll probably have some time for some questions if you have them. A good way to take yourself off mute is just if you're on a computer to hold down the space bar momentarily and speak, and then take your finger off the space bar. So I am also want to make sure that people on the call, because I got a lot of questions today, people on the call said, well, what's going on with Tossurf? So Tossurf is the longest running cycling event in North America. And it's got still a very dedicated following, small but dedicated. And we usually get about 800 riders. And we had to make the tough decision based on the feedback we got from the communities that we ride into. They said, can you please push this out to the fall? And so we've rescheduled Tossurf for September 25th and 26th of this year, which happens to be my birthday. So I told everyone this may be the first year I'm going to ride a little segment of Tossurf because I have never ridden Tossurf. So it should be a fun year. Hopefully a lot of the folks here and you major tailors can pass it on. Okay, so I'm getting a little chat thing. We can't see you. So I have two logins. You may see one, it's called Ohio to Erie Trail because we're using their account. But if you put gallery view, I'm the one in the Tossurf shirt. So put it on gallery view and you should be able to see me. But yeah, I've got something funky with my camera on my computer. So I've got to log in with my phone anyway. Technical issue. All right. I am now going to hand over the spotlight to the major tailors. Like I said, I've learned so much about them. I'm excited to learn more. If you go just to the Wikipedia page, let me just read before I hand it over. I want to read one line. So he talks about who Major Taylor was. He was quite an athlete. He excelled in track sprints. He won his first cycling race in Indianapolis in 1892. It talks about the racial prejudice that he experienced through his competitions. But let me do a search for Columbus, Ohio. The first of the many cycling clubs named in Taylor's honor was organized in Columbus, Ohio in 1979. Boom. Boom. That's huge. That's huge. Because right now you may know that there are Major Taylor groups popping up all over the nation, all over the world, really. And the time has come for that. I mean, it's long overdue. The people in Columbus knew about it in the 70s because we are usually, ahead of things. But I am going to now turn it over to, I think, Jed. Jed, do you want to kick us off here and take it away?
John T.
Jed's up.
I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
Were you trying to get hold of George?
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
So I'm
Lisa,
saying I'm passing it to you or whoever wants to speak first about who you are. Why don't we do this? Who you are, how you became involved with the Major Taylor group here in Ohio. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, let's start with that. Robert, why don't you go first? Robert and John.
Oh, damn. John T. Let me say a few words just to set up John T. that he's more eloquent than me, and we'll go from there. I'll tie it into Tossurf as well because there's Tossurf 1978 is reputed to be historically one of the top 3 most difficult rides on Tossurf. Background, wind 30 plus miles an hour, both days, headwind both directions. After going that 110 miles the first day, my compadre and I, Michael Henderson, stopped in the local pub, the Swick Lounge, if you will. Probably 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. We had showered, refreshed ourselves, and stopped in for a little refreshment. About 9 o'clock, it seems, if memory serves, I looked in the door and I saw 2 figures asking for directions. They were cyclists as well. Not knowing where they were, if they were indeed where they needed to be, that being Portsmouth, and where they needed to go to get R&R, refreshments, relaxation, bed. We gave directions, pointed up the hill, went back to party. Come to find out, that was George Harper and Mr. Fuller. Flashback. A few weeks later, going to the barber shop, my barber, Miss Barbara Harper, was cutting my hair and invited me to her reception. She was getting married, etc. I said, yeah, I'll go. Ran to the party. Who did I run into? George Harper, her brother, Lloyd Pate, and John Fuller. They were telling me these stories about their ride to Portsmouth. And then it dawned on me, these were the brothers that were in the door at 9 p.m. trying to get in. I'll pass it on to John T. now.
Okay. So from there, George decided that he was going to take up cycling. And you got to understand that the original group of guys were basically frustrated athletes from playing ball in college or whatever, and we couldn't do it no more. So long story short, George went to Dayton to a bike shop, and he happened to look on the counter, and he saw this article about this black cyclist named Major Taylor. That was his first knowledge of Major Taylor. As a matter of fact, I doubt if there was any black person in this country that had heard of Major Taylor because it wasn't in our history books, period. So he comes back to Columbus and decides that he wants to start a club. And I'll give you the names and I'll show you this picture. But George Harper.
That's right.
Bill Willis, the William Willis's son. Who else? Lloyd Pate, George Harper, myself, Robert Bradley, Jed, and
Where
one
did
other
Danny
was
fit in
John-
there?
Danny was come lately. But anyhow, we got together and decided to have a meeting about forming a club. And I have the first meeting that we held, which was in September of 1978. And in 1979, we incorporated to become the Major Taylor Cycling Club. And right now, I don't know if you can see this, but these are the original folks. Robert there in the yellow, George, Lloyd Pate, then myself, and in the middle is George Harper with the blue jersey, John Bradford, Bill Willis, and Jed. And so we started the club and have been rolling ever since. So we celebrated our 40th at that same spot 40 years later, and the Dispatch did an article on us, and we posed a picture the same way that we did in 1979. So that was the 40-year anniversary, and we've been rolling ever since. And one side note is that there are so many adventures that we could talk about, but I'll let Jed take over with that. But I hope, Jed, that you talk about the chapters all around the country, including Austin, Texas, and how that began to just swell, and some of the major rides that we participate in. You there, Jed? Go.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, can you hear me? Okay, I'm getting
Yeah,
a kind of a
yeah.
muted signal, but okay, good. Yeah, well, yeah, that's pretty much how it started. And for me personally, I worked in a bike shop on High Street called Cross Country Cycle back in the day. It was where I think Eddie George's place is now. And I'm there wrenching on a bike, and all of a sudden, George and Robert walk in and started talking about all these rides that they were going to be doing. And to me, new in the sport, you know, I had always wanted to do toss serve, and I had heard of the Taylors, and it was always a real big deal to be known as being in the Taylor train. In other words, like riding with the group down through Portsmouth. So that became it for me. And, you know, in terms of my aspirations, what I wanted to do. And so that kind of kicked the whole association off. But what really came out of it quickly was, Harper, George Harper is, he bills himself as an explorer. And it's true. I mean, every year we would take a trip somewhere to cycle. And it would always be in preparation for Tosser. And, you know, this started out with a trip to New York. We went down to Front Royal, Virginia, and do nothing but ride. But along the way, we would hook up with other clubs. And I remember one of the first trips we took in, I don't know what year it was, probably 81 or 82. We rented out a motorhome. And I think, John, you've got some pictures of that, but we rented out a motorhome and drove up to Cleveland and picked up some guys from the Class A breakaways and the Cleveland Easy Riders. And so then, you know, again, that started the association with other clubs. We then went to New York and hooked up with some guys that Robert knew from Joe Strotter and his brother Stan, who are now members of the Columbus Club. And I think, as I recall, the Cleveland guys still owe us money for that trip. Does that sound all right?
They do.
Yeah, they do. They didn't pay a lick. Yeah, but it you know, it was that really, for me, it was that spirit of adventure. You know, the idea that we were always going to go someplace new, and we were going to represent ourselves in Columbus, Ohio, well, which really did it for me.
So let me just
And
tag on
beyond
this.
that, the stories go on forever.
Yeah. Then Lisa, you can ask the next question. But right now, I'll try to name the number of clubs that are affiliated with us. New York, Philadelphia, DC, Baltimore, Austin, Texas. Atlanta has a huge club. LA, Detroit.
L.A.,
Yeah, I said LA.
Memphis,
Memphis.
Arkansas.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
It goes on and on. And the beauty of it is
They're
this.
popping up in Florida.
Yes. And the beauty of it is this. They all ride under the name of Major Taylor with due respect to his accomplishments that went unnoticed for so many years. Now, a lot of you probably heard of Jack
That's
Johnson.
true. Yeah.
And the history will tell you that Jack Johnson was the first African-American champion as a boxer, but he wasn't. As a matter of fact, Jack Johnson tried cycling first.
No.
And then before he became world champion, Major Taylor had already won his world championship in racing in Europe. So actually, Major Taylor was the first African-American world champion. And that's how we came about.
Second. Yeah.
Lisa?
Do we have some?
there?
Do we have some discrepancy there? Someone said second, or are we?
Well, technically, there was.
He was first.
No. If you're speaking about world champion, the first African American world champion was a brother boxer out of Canada.
Well,
and
yeah.
He was probably 18. I was 1890, 1891. The major was like 1899. Jack was 1901, 02. So if you're speaking specifically about African American world champions, there was a boxer from Canada. I'm sorry, I don't know his name. Do a web check, but the major was 2, and Jack was 3.
So the Major was the first African American U.S. world champion.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Enough.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
Major? He was.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia. He was in the military. Is that right?
No.
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 How did he get?
Okay,
he
I'll
was
tell you that
in-
story.
he-
He got that name because as a young boy in Indianapolis, a gentleman owned a bike shop, and to attract customers, Marshall Taylor had.
No, that wasn't it at all.
Huh? He had so many skills that the bike shop owner put him out in front of the store to do tricks on the bike, and put a little Major uniform on him, and that's how he got the name Major Taylor.
Okay. I see that. I see he was doing tricks first when he first got on a cycle, and then someone agreed to coach him to race. And
Yes.
that's where he just took off. He must have been just a phenomenal athlete.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
path that goes with that prior to becoming a world champion athlete. He was having a lot of
Yeah.
difficulty racing in America because of his race, because he was African American. He participated in a 6-day race in Madison Square Garden that he won, and then after he won, he got beat up, so near death. So his manager decided that this is not going to work, so we got to take him out of here, and took him to Europe, and that's where he flourished as a champion cyclist. But the other thing that he would not do was race on Sundays.
Race on Sunday.
Because of his religion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
He wouldn't
Wait, was he
race on
Jewish?
Sunday. That's right.
No,
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 you said
no,
Jewish.
no. Just Sammy Davis Jr.
Stop.
It was the Sabbath, so he just took it seriously. Okay, great. Well,
Yeah, the other thing that's noteworthy about that, the thing that's noteworthy about that too is just in terms of context, this is right around the turn of the century. And if you can imagine, the whole society really didn't have any kind of idea of what speed was. In other words, the fastest any human had ever gone besides running was either riding a horse, riding a carriage, or in a train. So this man comes on and has got incredible speed. So he is like a superstar, and it's just worth noting that his speed was just incredible.
amazing. So,
Yeah,
the
so
next
no.
question I wanted to ask,
I just
and
got a voicemail from George Harper. He's trying to get on.
Yeah, right.
is he here yet? Because I did just let someone in on an iPhone.
Yeah, George is technically
That
challenged.
could be George.
George, are you here?
Don't worry about it. George is technically challenged now.
Ask
Come
your
on.
next question.
Okay, so I want to know how did you all, so you told the story about how you found out about Major Taylor, had a lot to do with George and seeing people heading to Portsmouth, but why did you stick with it? Like, what role did the club play in your lives?
Well, it actually, for a bunch of guys that were looking for challenges, it was great because right away, probably about the second year, I'll speak for myself, probably about the second year of riding with these guys, was the camaraderie. And then as you rode more and learned
Yeah.
more about cycling, then your lifestyle of what you ate and what you did to stay in shape began to change. And I'll just tell you, at this point in my life, after 49, 50 years plus riding, I'm still happy to be healthy and able to get on a bike.
Who's George?
So that's the benefit of riding and staying with it, and seeing other people who are, still riding and capable of doing centuries and so forth.
Well, it just hurts now.
Yeah, it just hurts more now. That's what it is. It hurts a lot more
Yeah.
now,
Well,
But-
just
but-
all the people in the picture, you all still ride, right? The
Yes.
ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a testimony right there to health.
Well,
Oh,
when
yeah.
you see me on
Yeah.
when you see me on an adult tricycle, come and get me and tell me it's time to give it up, okay?
No, I won't.
Well-
That's just called a recumbent, right?
Well, I gotta check for my children are doing relatively well. I've decided the next time they ask me, Daddy, what do you want? I'm gonna get an e-bike, and the friends won't know it.
Yeah.
That sound like a lie to me.
So
Where's George Harper?
Is that George?
is,
Hello, I can't get no video, but I can hear you guys talking.
Oh,
But I'm
Presidente.
There he is.
So George, your name's been brought up a lot. Mostly good. Some of
I
there
don't know
you
if that's
are.
good or bad.
Some of the ground we've covered is just the history of how the chapter got started. What are your recollections of the I heard it had something to do with being in your basement.
No, you want the true story? Or you want the one that sounds good?
Oh, I want the true story.
The true story. The true story was over in the church's in the parking lot of Church's Chicken. Robert Bradley, Lloyd Pate, John Fuller, and myself kind of over a chicken leg kind of hatched the idea of starting a bicycle club. So I mean that was the true beginning. But other than that, we were just some good friends getting together that wanted to do more than just ride to Portsmouth every year. We decided to want to do more and ride year round. That's what it turned into.
Did you have any idea that it would lead to chapters across the world?
Not really. I mean, we had no idea that we knew Major Taylor was an unsung hero, and part of our mission was to get his name out there and try to give him some recognition that he deserved. Because that was one of the things that really caught my attention was the fact that he was so famous and such a great athlete, and none of us had even heard about him. I thought that was a real travesty, for us to consider ourselves cyclists and never heard of or knew who Major Taylor was, because it was his 100th birthday that we saw, and they profiled him on the cover of a bicycle publication.
79.
Yeah, in 79, he was 100 years old. And I couldn't believe it. Wow, who's this guy and where did he come from? And all this accolades that everyone else in the cycling world, had given him, but no one in the Black community, or even in America per se, had because he was, was unsung hero. Nobody, he was almost, he was big at the time, and then he was almost like he was forgotten, So I really thought that was a travesty for African Americans to have someone that great that we didn't even know about. So, and that was kind of part of our mission, was getting his name out there and trying to get him some recognition that he deserved.
Yeah, well, you were certainly successful in that. I mean, his legend, to today, everyone in the cycling world has at least heard of him. So
yes.
So walk me through what the early days of the club looked like. I mean, Jed started to tell us how you guys would go to other rides to train up for Tosser. You'd take road trips, you'd rent RVs. But what, did you have folks kind of questioning who you were, what you did, or what
that was always the question. If we had anything that had Major Taylor written on it, a jersey or whatever, that was the first thing they would want to know. who is right?
Who is he?
And a lot of folks thought it was this older fella that rode with us. They thought he was Major Taylor. For a long time, they thought Robert Bradley was Major Taylor. They just want to know who was Major Taylor. And,
so I have a picture. I think this was our second ride to Portsmouth, and we ended up in the American Wheelman magazine. Now this is a small picture, so I don't know if you all can see this, but there you go. That was
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
You couldn't tell us that we weren't high profiling. We bought those jerseys at Schockenstein's, and we put our labels on there, MTC, uh,
Jordan,
and that was right there in front of Lake White. Um, and so that was our year that they wrote an article on us saying that who is these guys that ride so fast and move like a freight train. So from there, George said, like, we got to get a little bit more classier with some jerseys, and so the rest is his. I think we change jerseys every year. So
Yeah, every
Yeah.
year, every other year at least.
So did anybody did he tell her the story of Mike Davis and the Bicycle Inn on his website where he had that picture of Major Taylor? And I don't know
No.
what he was giving something away to anybody who could tell him who Major Taylor was.
Mike Davis owned it was called the Bicycle Inn in North Carolina, up in the mountains. And all he
Burnsville,
was,
North Carolina. Yeah.
yeah, all
Right
he cared
outside
was
Asheville.
and every room in his inn was named after a cyclist. But he knew about Major Taylor, and that's where we really, started putting together the idea for summits. Major summits. No pun
Well,
intended.
he couldn't believe that it was a Major
But
Taylor
George
cycling
is
club.
behind all of that.
Well,
Right,
there was a
right.
lot I didn't believe. No, but
he thought that he was probably the only one that knew anything about Major Taylor at the time, and he was challenging anybody that knew who this man was. Had Major Taylor's picture on his website, and said, "Do anybody know who this is?" And that was just a question that he had on there, And then when he ran into us with a Major Taylor cycling club, he was just blown away. 'Cause I guess Major Taylor was one of his heroes back in the day. He knew everything about it. So, well, it was the same thing. We went out to California and met those people out in Oakland, and they couldn't believe that there was a Major Taylor cycling club. So, we kind of came out of obscurity, and in our travels, we kind of promoted, who he was and in the club, and folks just kind of followed suit. They looked to us for direction and all that, and now whenever we go anywhere like to tours and things, we do get introduced as the oldest Major Taylor cycling club in
The
the
originals.
country. The originals.
Yeah.
And
they're breaking us out in wheelchairs and
Robert, save your money up. Save your money up. There's a guy that got electric bikes for sale.
yeah, that's my kids.
It looked just like road bikes. Nobody has to even know.
The other thing I think that we've accomplished as a club, if you notice from all the pictures that I showed you, it started out with all guys. And now we're happy to say that our club is flourishing with young, old, male, female, black, white. It's great because it's all about the whole idea of enjoying cycling and each other. And I think we've come a long way in terms of recognizing the fact that there's a lot of strength in numbers. And the beauty of it is that we look at these other chapters, these other clubs in other states and cities, and their clubs are just as diverse as ours and flourishing as well. And that makes us feel real good because how we started was just really some guys that wanted to ride, and George being the brainchild of naming it Major Taylor, we had no idea that it would evolve to even having a Zoom conversation in 2021 to talk about a club that we just wanted to get together and ride. And here we are. So yet alone to be in Wikipedia and be the first.
Right, right.
You know, so
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what do you attribute the longevity to? I mean, a lot of clubs, you know, they may be around for 15, 20 years, but you guys have far surpassed that. I mean, you talk a little bit too about like some of the fun activities you do. Jed, you mentioned you still have the Wednesday night rides. Why are people still, you know, coming out?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it, I think, is just the fact that, you know, there was a sameness to it every year. We had a schedule that all, quite frankly, revolved around toss serve, getting ready for toss serve and post toss serve rides and what we're going to do in the summer and that like. But we didn't really vary it up too much with the exception of whatever we did in the spring in terms of our big ride. And it's just been the sort of thing where we, you know, we would have meetings in the winter time and we'd again plan out the schedule for getting ready for toss serve. For a number of years, we would get together and train in the winter time. That is lift weights and over at Lloyd's house. And like, we kind of fell into a sameness. And I think that was all based on the fact that, you know, we all like to ride bicycles, but on top of everything else, we all like each other a lot. You know, we're all really, really good friends, and that friendship, that camaraderie, has stayed around forever. I remember one time we were on a go bar, and it was George and Lloyd and Robert and I sitting around a table or a fire, and some people came up and started talking to us, and they were asking me what Lloyd did for a living, and I couldn't tell them. Lloyd couldn't tell him what I did for a living. So, you know, it's not what it was all about. It was all about just being on the bike and watching out for one another.
Yeah, that's a true friend when you don't have to judge each other by that sort of, you know, the way society places values on you. You guys were just friends, cycling buddies, and it sounds like even on the off season, it became like John was saying, sort of a lifestyle of, you know, lifting weights. You know, that's what happens. Like today I started my first ride and I came home and I didn't want to eat any junk food. You know, I ate healthier than I did for a while. So yeah.
Well, it was something magnetic about the way it would attract people to the club. You know, I mean, it kind of took on a life of its own, because we never really did any kind of recruiting or promoting and all that kind of stuff as far as trying to get members in. People would just kind of show up, and the one they would kind of show up, and the ones that stayed would you know, just become part of the club. So and that wasn't, you know, I mean, that's just something that just happened. You know, I mean, it wasn't by design or anything. I mean, it just, you know, just happened.
So here's the real story. The real story is that when people would show up to ride with us, we take them out and drop them. And so if they came back the next time, they were okay. But there was a lot that didn't come back.
So let me tell you.
So a long time, nobody wanted to ride with the Major Tailors, because that's what you would do. You go out and get beat up, you know, get dropped.
Well, let me tell you a story about Adrian. His first ride that he did with us, he crashed and fractured a couple ribs. I mean, he was hurt. We didn't think we'd ever see him again. But what it did, it made him more determined to want to come out and ride with us. I mean, he came back after about a month, you know, about 6 weeks or something, and showed back up. And I was, you know, I was surprised. I thought that we saw the last of him.
Showed back up spending money.
But that was a determination that he had, that he wanted to ride with the majors, you know, and he became one of our you know, strong and most devoted Major Tailors that we had. But you know, I mean, that's just the way it would go, you know. Like you said, the people that would drop, we never see them again. And then the other folks would accept the challenge and show back up and do what they need to do. And we give them the pointers and all that. And pretty soon they'd be right in there with the rest of the group.
So, you know, the other
Praise
thing that
everybody
as
else.
the other thing as we do as a club or have done as the club, we created the Major Taylor Youth Ambassadors.
Oh yeah,
We've
yeah, that was
provided
nice.
bicycles for I can't think of the name of that church in West Virginia, and then George, you did a thing for the church here in Columbus where we got bicycles for kids, and then we used to have the Long Street Tour, which was taking place on Long Street here in Columbus, and it started out with racing. Of course, what was Tim's last name?
Tyler.
Tim Tyler.
Tim Tyler.
He would put on races, and that was drawing. You know, it didn't draw a lot of what I'd say non-cyclists. It drew the attention of a lot of people who were into cycling and or racing, but it was a way for us to attach our name to an event that went on for another 10 years, the Long Street Tour. And so
Yeah, that kind of helped introduce cycling to the Black community.
Black community, that was the whole intent. And I think it was Bank One wanted to do that, to introduce cycling to the Black community. And we did that for a number of years. And it worked because as we got toward the latter years, we started attracting clubs from Detroit, Cincinnati, Dayton, all to come and do the Major Taylor ride tour.
Pittsburgh.
So we've done some things that, Pittsburgh,
Philly, DC, New Jersey, New York.
Wait a minute, George.
Here's one that we haven't mentioned, y'all. We held the National Brotherhood of Cycling here in Columbus.
NBC.
National Conference,
National Conference, which brought in
2013.
probably brought in maybe 300-400 people, and we had Nelson Vales. How many of you all know who Nelson Vales is?
Nelson Vales and Butch Reynolds.
Well, Nelson Vales was the Olympic track silver medalist. They called him Cheetah, and he came and rode with us, and that was a real good experience, and that got us a lot of exposure. And those 300 folks that showed up, we had no idea. We were going to be happy if we got 100, because it was a struggle. No money, no sponsorship, and here's to the point that George and Jed were making. The people came because it was all about cycling. That was the only reason. They didn't care what the registration was, where they said they wanted to do cycling. And it's great because when you get out in the community and people know who you are, like Mary Ellen, she knew who we were. I remember now. First of all, Mary Ellen can roll. I mean, the woman can ride. so she knew who Major Taylor was. But I just think that, you know, in the cycling community, when you do good things and have events, word gets around as to what you're about. And, you know, we first started out being about those guys just like to ride. And then it ended up where that's a club that reaches back and tries to help youth learn how to cycle, hosts conferences, gives away bicycles, yada, yada, yada. So,
and the mayor became an honorary Major Taylor.
Major Coleman.
Mayor Coleman.
Yeah, bike with Mike.
Yeah,
Right?
Mike.
Yeah, we gave him a jersey and stuff. We made him an honorary member of the club. He was thrilled to death.
I told him, I said,
I don't think he's going to be doing. He's not.
He's not in our 40-year club. Just put it that way. He's not in the 40-year club.
When we gave him the jersey, he says, "I don't know if this will fit." I said, "Well, that was intentional, so that if you ride with us, it'll fit. If you want to wear it, ride." He did.
Great. Jed, you mentioned something about earlier today when we were talking about the pace line and how prestigious it was to get into the line, the Major Taylor line on Tosserve.
Oh, Lord. The train.
Talk a little bit about
You
that for
broke
people.
up there. I didn't hear that.
She's talking about the Portsmouth train.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit about that.
And the baggage checks.
The baggage check.
Oh, the Portsmouth train. Yeah, yeah. Well, that was it. If you think about the club's exposure to a lot of other cyclists, the only venue where that really happened habitually was Tosserve. And again, the idea was that, whatever our line was going to be, in other words, however many cyclists we had, it was going to be a strong line. It was going to be orderly, and we were going to take care of the people that were in it. Now, we didn't let everybody in it, to be honest with you. For a number of years, we would do a thing called a baggage check, where we would pick up people, in our line, and we would let them. Yeah, and we let them ride along for a while, and then we start yelling baggage check, and
They didn't have a clue.
run away from all these cats.
So baggage
I
check.
think you did. I think you did that to me. I think you did. I think you did it to me.
Now she knows what it means. Now she knows.
Yeah, now she knows.
What?
You just make sure you ain't the last one on the line. You might
And
end up
Lisa,
getting checked
what was
yourself.
fun? Lisa, what was fun was to look back over your shoulder after you called baggage check and see baggage scattered all over the road.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey. Hey, Lisa, we have our vice president on, Latanya. So if she'd like to say something,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, I got you, didn't I, Latanya? You think I saw you? Tell us about your experience.
Oh, so actually my experience was I was trying to train for Pelotonia. I had a aunt that passed away, and I signed up for Pelotonia, and I needed to start riding miles, which I had never done before. So I did the first 50 miler, and then I reached out to a cousin I had in Cleveland who told me about the Major Taylors, and he said, "Hey, link up with those guys, and then they will, they'll get you together." So I signed on to the website, and you guys didn't drop me, but I heard about it. But I started from there. I started doing 100 milers. They introduced me to Tosser, and I started doing that as well. And so, yeah, I've become much better cyclist because of those guys. So I'm very appreciative.
Well, Tanya was one of the youngsters to start riding with us. That's all. That's why we couldn't drop her.
Yeah, funny how as you got older, you didn't drop as many people.
Ah!
Funny how that works.
Yeah, well, you look
Yeah.
around now when you're dropped and you have plenty of company.
Right.
Well, you should talk a bit about the Grand Masters, George.
The Grand Masters 65 and over. Everybody want to ride with the Grand Masters. The Grand Master pace. We don't drop anybody. We take frequent breaks. And we wait on everybody. So everybody want to ride with the Grand Master, even if they ain't a Grand Master.
The joy of cycling.
But they need to ride with Jed. They want the real Major Taylor experience. down in those the hills down there of southeastern Ohio. That's where we learn to ride at.
The other thing that I think as a club we're very proud of is that, for everybody that's on here now, you're a cyclist. There are people who ride bicycles, and then there are cyclists. And I think the beauty of the cycling community is our acceptance into that community. Because for the longest kind of time, particularly on Tarsiv, we were the only black cyclists as a group, as a club that rode.
That's
And I
true.
know
That's true.
your
Yeah.
questions was, Lisa, earlier, but we never encountered any non-acceptance in terms of nobody letting us in the line or something like that. I mean, there were folks that didn't want to get in our line, not because who we were, because they couldn't keep up. But the bottom line was, the cycling community, just about everywhere that we've traveled, have been accepting of us as a black cycling club.
Well, there's something about
Now,
cyclists that
You
you don't
can move.
find uptight, and people that cycle just aren't uptight. They're usually pretty laid back and everything.
Right,
So I
right.
think that's one of the things that make the camaraderie, universal. Because you don't find cyclists that have problems.
attitudes.
That's
You know.
Yeah.
right. Attitude.
Everyone's worn out. That's for
Everybody's
sure.
laid
You
back.
got no strength.
Too
You
tired
know,
to fight about it.
the beauty of
Mellows
cycling
you
is
out.
the beauty of
That's
cycling
it.
is if you start off with somebody and they don't like you, they might not understand that further down the road they might need you. So it's a great thing. And the other thing I'll mention is the Seagull Century, which is held in Ocean City, Maryland, every year in October. When we first started going to that, we were it. And we're talking, at that time between 6,000 and 7,000 cyclists from all over. We were it. You go there now, it's black cycling clubs from all over the country, as far away as California. Sometimes individual riders come down from Canada, and it's an acceptable thing now. I mean, it's folks that look for us to be there every year. So I just think that the cycling community is very unique in terms of different from what Major Taylor went through back in his day. So that's a hell of a contrast. But it's everybody's got the same goal. It's really interesting if everybody has the same interests, the same commonality around an event or sport. It's easy to make friends and participate.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
So
For sure.
Well, I think what they say that imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
yes.
We've been imitated a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to join your group, what's the best thing? What's the next step they would do? If someone on the call is interested in saying, I'd like to get dropped by the Major Taylors and then come back for more.
Well, for a long time, our only requirement to be a member of the Major Taylor was that you had to have a bicycle and ride.
That's it.
That was it. I mean, as simple as that.
Well, I think right now, if they wanted to show up on when we start, Shirley, when do we start Wednesday night rides?
Yeah,
If
did
they
you put
say
something out there?
after
We're gonna
daylight
start them we're gonna start them after the daylight
savings time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is
Shirley,
the
17th, so they'll
17th?
start on the 17th.
17.
The
So if they want to
17th?
show up for a
17th.
Wednesday night ride, and Shirley, where are we leaving from this year? Every Wednesday?
Three Creeks.
Three
and,
Creeks.
Three Creeks.
Three Creeks.
Boy, see, there you go. Looking for young guns. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?
It's all right, Robert. We still had the breakfast run out to Plain City.
Now you just
The
put down
Grandmaster role.
You just put an invitation out for anybody that don't think they're gonna get dropped. Show up. So what am I supposed to do?
The Grandmasters don't drop nobody, Robert. You know that.
Yeah, right. Oh,
We're
mercy.
friendly.
Mercy.
We're friendly and
Mercy.
gentler.
So now who was Shirley. All of a sudden she popped up. Everyone, when it came to organization, everyone looked at Shirley. Shirley, introduce yourself. Are you a Major Taylor
She's our
member?
Hey, yes, I'm a Major Taylor. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Johnny in the house.
I was trying to stay low key.
Is that you out in San Francisco? That bridge? You out the Golden Gate Bridge, girl?
No. Hey, Shirley. Shirley,
Really, we can't really see you well.
Well, because I'm trying to talk and make sure you guys can hear me, but hey, can you see me now?
yeah.
I don't want the light on.
You on the bike,
because-
girl. You out riding, girl. What's wrong? You out on the bike. Boy, get those cheater miles in.
Hey, Shirley, tell everybody how you got in touch with the Major Taylors.
Actually, how I connected with the Major Taylors, because I attended South High School, and a lot of the majors are alumni from South High School. So I know several of the members, and that's how I became associated with
We got
the
more
Major Taylors
people in the
because of
Major
that.
Taylors
And
from South High School.
so I went to
any-
George.
George.
Huh? What'd
Go
you say?
ahead, Shirley.
So so one day there was the South High Bulldog memorial ride that the majors do. And that's when I met George, and I asked him, how come he don't have an entry level cycling club, and where are the women? So here we are.
Oh, good for you. I
So-
like you.
So Lisa, there's one more story, and
Okay.
this is a good one, and I'm going to ask my nephew Ken Ashton to tell his torso experience with tennis shoes.
Ken, you're on.
Ken didn't know.
No, they were not tennis shoes. They were touring.
They were
shoes.
They were
had a-
sneakers.
No, they weren't. I had real shoes.
Back then they called them sneakers, didn't they?
No, I had real shoes. Thank you.
Dress shoes,
So, but-
slippers. You had slippers.
No, they were real cycling shoes. I had toe clips.
Beta bikers.
Beta blockers.
Beta bikers.
Beta something.
I had toe clips, and those shoes
Beta
fit
bikers.
into the toe clips. So y'all just don't remember because it was like 25 years ago. But the
But were you
story I
able to
will
hang?
tell-
That don't get
Were you
you
able-
okay. That won't
So
get
the
it.
story I will tell, let me tell the story. So the story I will tell is it's two parts. My first tosser, it was the night before, and Johnny gave me this stuff in this white bottle called K12. And said, here,
K12.
take a cap full of this. This will set you straight for tomorrow. Might as well be drinking dirt. That's how bad it tastes. The second story was the day of, we're just about to start, get on the bike and roll out. And Johnny goes, okay, this is all you need to know. After about 15 miles, if you see a tandem, jump on its wheel. And they'll pull you along real nice. Well, we get out there, it was me, him, and Gary Johnson. And he didn't wait 15 minutes. The tandem came by with like 5 people on it. He jumped on the wheel, so we have to follow him because I don't know where I'm going. And after about a couple miles, they kind of slowed down, and then we regrouped. Didn't take that long where another tandem comes by with like 15 people on it. Johnny jumps on that train, and he was gone. Left me and Gary, and then it started raining. That was my first tosser.
So you got dropped, but you came back
Twice.
for more.
You got dropped, you got wet, you got wet.
Got
And
wet.
not only did he come back for more,
And then the wind started.
did he come back for more? He started the DC chapter of Major Taylor.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well, George designated
That's right.
enough guys to make a chapter. But yeah.
And so tell him about the summit.
So the summit. So the guys have been going down to.
The one that you're having.
Well, I'm
Wait a minute.
gonna start from the beginning.
Okay.
if you have time.
From the bicycle in, or from the bicycle in, or
Well, you guys started going to Front Royal like almost every year, so I finally made it a couple times. And then y'all went to Gatlinburg and invited the guys from Atlanta.
you was going to Bear
And-
Mountain with us, weren't you? Weren't you going to Bear Mountain?
That was in the fall.
No, he never went to Bear Mountain.
He never did Bear
Not
Mountain in the spring.
In the fall. Only been there in the fall with you
okay.
guys. We stayed with
Okay.
Elvis. But
Right.
the last time in Gatlinburg, we went and we invited the guys from Atlanta. And I think it was Bo Gaines was watching George and Greg, the president from MAC, sitting there, and it's like, look at these guys having their presidential summit. So that's where the name came from. So this year, you know,
Summit of the Presidents.
yes, exactly. So last year would have been the 20th edition, but we had to postpone it to this year. We're definitely having it this year. We got protocols in place to keep folks safe, but this year will be the 20th Major Taylor Mountain Summit. And it's going to be in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. We had an excursion there a couple years ago, so all the routes are there. And it's
Blue
Climbers
Ridge
Day.
Parkway. The Blue Ridge Parkway.
It's right on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Nice little town, tourist town.
That's a picture of it behind you, isn't it? Is that a?
Well, I made that
Blue
little
Ridge
background.
Parkway?
This is my Zoom background.
Is that Blue Ridge Parkway?
There's no question that's going to happen.
Is
That's the Parkway
registration
back there.
open now?
That's on the Blue Ridge Parkway. I just took an image off the internet. It's not one of mine.
Oh,
Mine don't turn
okay.
out that nice.
That could be
Registration is open
Italy
now,
then,
right?
huh?
Registration is open now. Registration is open now.
So there's a,
To the
To
summit?
yeah, it's open. There's a website, MajorTaylorMountainSummit.com. All the information is there. Registration.
What's the,
everything you need to
what's
know.
the date? What's the date of it?
April
April.
22nd to the 24th.
Ooh, it's coming up. Okay.
You
Is that
gonna,
right?
you gonna hire some SAG drivers?
Um,
You gonna
there's
hi-
money there's money. Anybody that wants to SAG.
That's me. All
There's
right,
what?
I got that job.
Okay.
I have first dibs on it.
Oh,
Robert
Well,
got
what?
second
He said
dibs.
there's money.
The more the
there's
merrier.
money.
There's money. There's money available.
All right,
He said there's
all
money.
right.
Yes.
Money for SAG drivers.
Yes, there is. Reliable SAG drivers.
That counts you out, Robert.
I just might come.
You know, I mean, if you get a place to stay, you don't mind eating food in your room, and you know, bring your mask and hand out water bottles. There's going to be people all over the road because they're starting at their own pace. So, but it's definitely going to happen, and registrations is picking up.
Great.
So
How
Well,
many numbers you got
Outside.
now?
I haven't
We
counted
don't need
since
no, we
yesterday.
don't need no numbers, Robert.
Right.
Well,
You know we don't do numbers.
I've been
the
getting
folks who
calls,
registered
George.
last year have their entries transferred this year. So
Yeah,
I
don't
don't know how
start talking
many
about
of those folks
numbers,
have-
Robert.
Well, I registered last year.
You want to
then you're good for
refund?
this year.
I'm
If you
good
registered
this
last
year.
year, your registration
He's driving
is
the
good for
SAG this year. He needs a refund.
yeah, this COVID has made all us event directors a little crazy, hasn't it? We're doing the same thing with Tosser. If you signed up for Tosser last year, you automatically get switched to this year. So,
Yeah.
so we got time maybe for one more story, and then I think we're going to wrap it up. Anyone got a good story about early days, glory days, yesterday?
Hey, John.
Yo,
Hey, John.
yes.
Tell them about you guys sharing the backpack and all your stuff.
Oh, that's
Our first century ride.
First
after
Century.
Yeah.
Portsmouth.
so. Robert Bradley, being the military guy that he is, decided that on this ride,
That was a tortoise in the hair.
yeah, we was going to Mount Vernon, right?
That's
Yeah.
Mount Vernon ride.
And
That
so,
was the John Fuller tried to outdo the doctor. Wasn't happening. But I
So-
got lost.
but wait a minute now, wait a minute.
That's the only thing that saved us.
So
Robert didn't know the
decided to
way.
put everything that he had that he was going to bring with him in a bag, a duffel bag.
Not me. No.
Whose bag was that?
Backpack. It was a backpack.
No.
Everybody put everything in one backpack.
Full
And we was going to take
they
turns
showed up
carrying.
with the backpack. They decided to talk me to put my little sandwich in the backpack, and I was carrying it up Smothers Road. I said, "Wait a minute, let me take my stuff out and let them have the bag. I don't need this." That's where that went. Yeah.
You became the mule. All you had was a
Well,
sandwich.
I was going to share the work, but then I decided this is not how we roll. These guys don't know what they're doing.
So Lisa, let me tell you 2 quick stories and I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so one story involves me and one story involves George Harper. We were in New York going up Bear Mountain, and I mean, we had been riding, and so George ran out of food. And so I pulled up alongside of him and I had one of those fruit wraps. I forget what they call them back in the day, but it was a fruit wrap and you peel it. So I gave it to him. I said, this'll hold you. So we riding along and he's chewing and he's chewing and he's chewing. He says, "How old is this fruit wrap, man?" I said, "I just got it today." He said, "Well, it's sure hard to chew." I said, "Well, it would be easier to chew if you took the plastic off of it." Delirium. It was delirium. So
Delirium.
my story is
Is that delirium?
my story is
He tricked me. He tricked me.
well, here's the trick. He got
He
me
didn't tell me
back.
to take the
I guess
pepper off.
years later, he got me back. So I was looking for a pair of riding shorts, and George said, like, "Well, man, if you can't get a pair of riding shorts, they got these, undergarments with padding in them that you can put on and then put your shorts over them." So I said, "Well, okay, I'll save some money," and I did it. We go out riding on a hot summer day, and we hadn't gone, I don't know, maybe 30, 35 miles, and I was hurting, y'all. I mean, I was hurting. I was hurting so bad. I didn't have no butt butter, no nothing. But you're off target when you see smoke coming from down where you see it. I got off the bike. Went over into the weeds and took those undershorts off and left them and got back on the bike.
Felt a lot better.
I felt a lot better. You know the story. So we could write a book on stories. It's just been a great 50 years or 49 years. I don't know how long it is, but it's been great.
I got a quick one. We were on.
Write that book.
Yeah, right. We could.
I got one story for you that kind of encapsulates how the club goes. We were on Tosser. This was just a couple of years ago, actually, and as it stands right now, I'm serving as the president of the club, and we were on the second day, and had just left town, and we were going through those couple of areas where there were those stoplights, and Russ Meyer, a friend of mine from Cincinnati, and we just got a little bit excited, and we ran away from the group. So we were leading them out, and we sort of took off the front, and we got a couple miles ahead of them, and we had to stop for one reason or the other. I don't know if I had to pee alongside of the road or change a flat or whatever, but the group's approaching us, and Russ says, "Well, do you want to wait for him?" Or he said, he said, "Or you could do what you normally do, and that is let him catch up to you and then take off." And we started laughing about that. And he says, "Well, that wouldn't be very presidential." And I said, "Well, how do you think I got to be president?" It's been
Did you take off?
It's been a good run. It's been a really good run. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he didn't wait for
And
nobody.
there's more to
That's,
come. I'm
that's his trademark. He never looks back.
Who's trying to say something there? Shirley or
I look
someone?
forward.
There
Oops,
you
I just
go.
dropped. Look forward. I am.
Mary
It's
Ellen.
Mary Ellen. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there this year sometime.
We'll be out there.
When things get better and don't forget we got fall tosser, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll see you
Yeah,
guys
that'll
on
be fun.
tosser.
That'll be
I also
good.
see
Yeah.
someone, you got a Ranger Taylor jersey on, and I think you can buy
Yeah.
those on, so I put the Facebook page in the chat window.
It won't stay up.
I'm thinking from the Facebook page, you can probably hop to the website that has Major Taylor merchandise and talks about maybe some events that you guys like, the summit and that sort of thing that's coming up in April. So
Yeah.
Hi,
If
Lisa.
it all supports the club, it's good.
all right.
Yeah.
I just want
Bye.
You guys, thanks
We gotta
so
go.
much for sharing your history with us. I'll get the link to Jed, and I'm just honored to have all of you guys here share your stories. And I like her idea. You guys need to put it down and get the book done.
Ah.
Get the book done.
Hey,
the
a
book
lot of
done.
it we can't. A lot of
Get
it
the
we
book
can't put
done.
in print.
Oh,
Did anyone on the call here have any questions?
Thanks for sharing, you guys.
Any
No,
questions?
I just wanted to say I have been around biking forever, and I have always loved the Major Taylors. Like, you knew it was a good event if they were there, and I just always appreciated being able to ride with you guys. Occasionally, I was in your train. I don't know if I got dropped, but I
Ah. Ah.
Good to see you, Lisa.
yeah.
All right,
I had a question.
I'm gonna
Yes,
I
Jeff's
have
got a question.
for
Hey,
you.
Jeff.
go eat dinner.
Yeah, I in the past by that major trailer train a few times and fast. One of the things that early on you mentioned that one of the founding members was Bill Willis. Was that the Bill
yeah.
Willis, like Ohio
Yes.
State? And
Yeah.
Cleveland
His son.
Browns?
Bill Willis Jr. Bill Willis Jr. Yeah.
Was that the Bill
He was one of
Willis?
the founding. He was one of the founding members.
Wow.
That's right. He was in that church's parking lot with us.
Okay.
Ah.
I forgot about
Yeah.
Bill. I forgot about Bill. He was there.
He was there. Chill Bill.
Chili.
Your connection's a little off, Jeff. I'm not sure. It was a little hard to hear you, but I think you're just asking about
got
Bill
the gist of
Willis.
what-
Do you know him or?
Oh, he's well, I guess Bill Willis Senior, his dad was, I believe, like Hall of Fame college football player for Ohio State and the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
just that's
That's
a name that
Big
it's,
star.
pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Ron, you have your hand up.
Yep. Did the Major Taylor Club put up the signs for Major Taylor on the Alum Creek Trail over near Franklin Park?
Yeah. That was that was a joint venture with the city of Columbus, Parks and Recs, and we had the plaque made, and there's a bench over there too with all of the members on the bench, and a portion of that trail is
The names on it.
a portion of that trail is the Major Taylor Trail. We wanted to get it all the way out to Alum Creek, but somebody had beat us to it on that name, Alum Creek Trail. So
I
But
really
yeah, that's
I really appreciate seeing that. I live in Boston, and there's a Major Taylor Association in Worcester, which
Yes.
I
Where the
guess is
statue is,
associated
yeah.
with the club.
yeah,
And
that's
they do a 2-block long race up a steep hill in Worcester every year.
Yeah.
George's
in honor of
Hill.
Major Taylor.
George's Hill race.
yeah. That's the Major Taylor Foundation. So yeah. Actually, we had to get in touch with them to make sure that it was okay to use their name, but this was years after we had named it. And one quick story, George, who was it that went with you to meet Major Taylor's daughter?
That was
That
Mel.
was Marge Franklin,
Mel.
Mel Thompson. And
Right.
we met her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she gave her blessing, and she was just tickled to death that we was honoring her father.
Her father, yeah.
You know, yeah. But she
You
still had
started
his
in
trophies and all that stuff.
1979. You were first, I think, before the people in Worcester.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Oh
Right.
yeah. Yes, sir.
Any other questions from anybody?
Yeah, you better hurry because Robert's got to go to bed.
Okay.
It's fun.
Right. I got my
All
five.
right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
So long.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for having us.
Good seeing you,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
It was fun. It was very fun.
All right.
Thank you for
Good
making
night,
this
everybody.
happen.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so.